But can we call this one a hidden gem, or is it only a place where you go drink wine and get drunk?
It really has become such a huge tourist destination, but then you also have people who want to live there. It's very diverse. It has really close proximity to downtown Bellevue if you're working there, or any of the other east side elements.
Let's talk about the city of Woodinville.
The first things that people look at with Woodinville is that it's part of the North Shore School District. Families love Woodinville from that North Shore School District as an award-winning school district, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's for everyone. And it's not necessarily a community where you're going to see a lot of great options for first-time home buyers.
In the last 30 days, there were 6 sales under $1 million, but there were only 4, 5, 6 sales over $2 million. Welcome to another episode of Seattle Living and Wealth Building. We're super excited to have you guys on the show. We are going to dive deep into another incredible neighborhood in the Seattle East Side area. And hard to believe, but can we call this one a hidden gem? Or is it only a place where you go drink wine and get drunk? So let's talk about it, guys. We've got Justin Day, Michael Dapper, Wagner Real Estate Group. Let's talk about the city of Woodinville.
Love it.
Yeah. Tell me your thoughts quickly on what is Woodinville, where is it, and why is it really important for us to talk about and have a whole show about?
Yeah, well, I think Woodinville is, people primarily know it as the place where all the wineries are in the Seattle area. We've got 130 plus wineries in the area. It really has become such a huge tourist destination. And yeah, obviously there's the tourist side of things, but then you also have the people who want to live there. And so that's obviously what we're going to talk about today, is why people would want to live there, what that looks like, the lifestyle that they have. But it really is such a really cool dynamic. Used to be a lot of farms and very large properties. And over the years, it's become a little bit more dense in areas and still very rural in others. So yeah, it's one of those communities where it's very diverse, but has really close proximity to downtown Bellevue if you're working there, or any of the other east side elements. So
yeah, that's an unusual combination. Rural, yet close.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Tell me more about it, Michael. What is your take on Woodinville?
I mean, I would say like the first thing I think about in Woodinville is like big plots of land and then farmland. Like, so growing up here, Woodinville was like that place on the east side where you've gone too far, maybe. Like you're looking for Kirkland, and you're all this time you're like, what is this field of spinach or something, right?
Yeah.
And then as far as like the wine culture goes, I know that's really been developed in the last maybe 10, 15 years. But for a long time, the only place that people knew out there was Chateau Ste. Michelle. So I think that there has been a lot of changes to Woodinville. It's still kind of a place that people are curious about, but don't know much about, maybe beyond those two things I already mentioned. But I think of it as a place, real estate-wise, that you could get a big lot, get maybe some more privacy than you would find in, some of the other cities nearby, with still staying, on the east side. I don't find it to be like this perfectly commutable proximity to the east side, though. I think if you're thinking about Bellevue and you live in Woodinville, they're two different things. Two very different things, I should say.
Yeah. It's interesting because if you look at like the city of Bellevue and its proximity to areas like Medina, you've got that contrast of 10 to 15 to $60 million waterfront properties to some downtown condos at $300,000, which is kind of surprising. Right. But Michael, you would know about that.
Right. Yeah.
2-bedroom condos actually for under 5. So that's what's amazing about Bellevue. So what can you get in Woodinville when it comes to like real estate? What's the dichotomy here?
Yeah. Well, as we said, I mean, I think when people think about real estate in Woodinville, they more primarily think about larger estate style properties, a lot of almost like bridal trails in a way, like that style of living where you have these big estate style lots. There's been a lot of new development that's happened, but it's usually on these large lots. And there's a lot of kind of older houses as well. But then you get into kind of more heart of Woodinville, into the downtown core. That's where you're seeing a lot of new development, a lot of apartment style living, a lot of condos, townhouses. It is an affluent community, though. I mean, it's not necessarily a community where you're going to see a lot of great options for first-time home buyers that are on a strict budget. It is an affluent community. I think part of it breeds from the fact that you have that winery kind of hub. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those places where it's a really great option. Doesn't necessarily mean it's for everyone, but I think for those who want to have a quieter pace of life, yet still be close to everything, it really is a great option. So.
Yeah. Well, what kind of person would be drawn to Woodinville? Let's talk about that, right? So the people who are watching the show may go, okay, this is not for me, or this is for me.
I think one of the first things that people look at with Woodinville is that it's part of the North Shore School District. And so families love Woodinville from that perspective. North Shore School District is an award-winning school district, really well looked at, and I mean that's got to be number one. I think number two has to be people who want to live that lifestyle of the wineries. They really on the weekends like to enjoy their time, very social with their friends. Obviously people come from outside of living in Woodinville to be able to do that, but I do think that is obviously an attraction for a lot of people.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. What about you, Michael?
I think it's more of a bang for your buck driver for a lot of people. Like, I think people that are familiar with living in the greater Seattle area, just the Northwest in general, they might, seek it out first if they're want maybe privacy, a larger lot. I think with the median home price there is about 1.2. But I also think it's a place that people might start looking in Kirkland, and then they start looking in Redmond, and then they go, wait a minute, for the same amount of money, what is this place Woodinville? What can I get over there?
Yeah.
So how much does the lifestyle change if I just go a little bit 10 minutes down the road? Everything kind of changes, right? I think it's also interesting that now even just having condos in Woodinville is something new. Those developments are new, because that used to not really be.
Like the downtown part of Woodinville, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
right? Like condos would have been in Kingsgate or Kirkland, but yeah. So I mean, it is opening up to having some more options for if you're a single person or whatever. But I think typically it would have been, more of a great place to start a family for somebody that wants some land.
Yeah.
I think part of the 1.2 that you mentioned there, that is an accurate number, but I think it's also a little bit misleading because, it obviously takes into account a lot of different types of homes. So you can have homes that are on the lower end of that, in the mid $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 range. And there's a good amount of that's selling. But the majority of what Woodinville is more affluent and larger pieces of property. That doesn't mean that you can't get a lot of different types of living there, but it's yes, it is cheaper than Kirkland, let's say.
Yeah, for
absolutely.
Sure. Cheaper than Kirkland, cheaper than Redmond,
cheaper
than Bellevue. So probably cheaper than Issaquah.
Yeah.
More
expensive than Bothell.
Yeah, a little bit more expensive than Bothell because Bothell is so big and offers so much diversity. So I think what Michael said is, and both you guys said, right, what draws people to Woodinville, first of all, is maybe not necessarily I'm a wine drinker, so I want to live in Woodinville. You can drive and go drink wine, but I'm saying not necessarily, right? I think what draws people to it is they don't need to live right next to their wineries, but they have a reason to be able to find this place of like relative affordability next to a Kirkland or a Bellevue. You've got relatively easier commuting time if you work in Bellevue, Redmond, right, which are the major tech hubs. Supposedly if you're going around the north side of Lake into Seattle, that's pretty far. So I don't know if a lot of my clients who work in downtown Seattle are actually drawn to Woodinville. It seems to be a little bit far out there. But houses can range. It's definitely not this is a $2 million and up place. No. Like, I think that median price, as you said, is somewhat misleading because if you look at most of the single families that we've had kind of experience in, the clients are looking in like maybe that 1.2-ish as the low end to 1.6 range, maybe 7 or 8, right? That's kind of probably the broader range. But then what's happening right now is you're getting more townhome and condo options. And so just for perspective, right, in the last 30 days, and this is for single family only, which includes townhomes, the lowest price, there were 6 sales under $1 million.
Wow.
So, but there were only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sales over $2 million, right? And this is a total of 69 sales. So what does that mean? 57 of those sales are between $1 million and $2 million, right? So that is really kind of the sweet spot. And what's also interesting about Woodinville is that you've got the city of Woodinville, and then you've got rest of Woodinville, which actually isn't part of the city of Woodinville. It's unincorporated King County, right? So you don't get the same services that you get from the city, and they generally are much further east in areas like Cottage Lake. So those are the areas where you're going to get more of those like rural properties, and you can drive 10 minutes and you're like, I haven't seen any piece of business for quite a while. So it's an interesting space. And then you can be 10 minutes in and now you are in super dense traffic, major downtown traffic. So it's changed and evolved quite a bit.
Well, and geographically, you look at Woodinville and the downtown part of Woodinville is right on the west side of Woodinville, right? And it's right near 522,
405.
405. And so, it's a very busy area there. Then you go a little bit further to the east, and that's where you start getting, it just becomes more and more and more and more rural as you get further away from that downtown core. But then, effectively all the wineries go from the downtown core southwards, right? Yeah. So they're still quite close in proximity to a lot of the more urban environments, even though it is such a rural feeling kind of area.
Yeah.
But to your point, Maynard, Cottage Lake is Woodinville. I would never think of it as like, when I think of Woodinville, I don't think of Cottage Lake, but these are gorgeous properties and a lot of them are very, very, affluent, at a variety of different price points.
What's significant about it being unincorporated? Like if you lived in the unincorporated part, like what do you think? Right. How does that change?
Yeah, I think the main thing is you are probably less regulated because you're part of like King County zoning and development laws. So that's probably one thing. Your kind of fire and electrical services or fire and like medical services may be a little bit different. So there's not too big of a difference. Your taxes are going to be a little bit different because you don't have city plus King County. So a lot of people don't really think of that as a consideration except for a handful of clients who find one negative or find one positive, right? But selling in like Cottage Lake area, like you said, which is kind of where Bear Creek runs through, right? Bear Creek, are there really bears? Yeah, there are really bears. There really are bears there. So
you're getting into the
right? It's kind of wild there. You are getting into a very, relatively rural area, yet so close to like downtown, all those wineries. So I think it's really a good spot for, if you are in the tech space, that's a phenomenal place to live. If you want a little bit of relative peace and quiet, and better value for your money compared to the heart of Redmond, particularly, of course, Bellevue and then Kirkland. Yet you're super close.
Yeah. And I think the other person that it really is very highly desirable for is a person who's looking for a large piece of property.
Yeah.
And so I've worked with many people who have been in that mindset of, hey, we want to have, like maybe they're not from Seattle and they aren't really used to the urban environment and they want to have like a half an acre. Well, there's not that many places in the Seattle area that are going to have a half an acre necessarily. Yeah. And so you go to places like Woodinville, it does exist and it's a lot, especially because how big a geographic area it is. Whereas you go to a place like Bothell, which is right across 405 from Woodinville, and you're not going to really see much of that at all. It's a lot of planned developments, and so that makes Woodinville really unique in that sense that there's not a lot of planned communities. It's just a lot of kind of larger parcels.
Yeah, kind of agreed. You don't have massive developments here like you get into Bothell, but then the person who likes Bothell often likes those new construction houses, which you tend to not get over in Woodinville. But you can get starter townhomes, like I help my first-time home buyers in that southwest part of Woodinville, right next to the city of Kirkland, right next to Totem Lake. They're probably 10-minute drive from there, but they're technically in the city of Woodinville. Yeah, they're paying $1.2 million for a starter townhome. Wow. Yeah. But the location is phenomenal. It's like a planned development. Yeah. They can walk down the hill, go get themselves a whiskey at Woodinville Whiskey.
Yeah.
You know, or they could, hop on a bike and the Kirkland Corridor Trail that goes all the way from Kirkland all the way up to Woodinville is also another cool access point.
Yeah.
I have friends who take their e-bikes from Kirkland and then they go get drunk and somehow get home on their e-bikes. So I won't name you, so don't worry about it. You're not going to get caught or arrested for drunken e-biking.
Right.
Yeah, but that is an option for you, right? It's kind of a lifestyle thing. And I think, like you said, right, let's not dismiss what I said earlier. Like, people may want to be like immersed in this kind of food and wine haven and have good proximity, so they don't have to pay $100 for a 20-minute Uber. They can pay $50 for a 10-minute Uber.
Right.
So there is the advantage of being close to all the wineries.
Yeah. And I do also think it has something to do with being amongst like-minded people.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the community that you live in needs to fit with what your lifestyle is and what you feel and are excited about. And I think that's where a lot of people who are into food and wine specifically are going to be more attracted to Woodinville, just simply because that's the hub of it, right?
Yeah. I think this is what we're saying. It appeals to actually a wide range of people, surprisingly, right? Yeah. You can have perhaps a couple who are empty nesters who want to be immersed in food and wine, and they could actually own a downtown condo, right? And then be right by everything and have a completely different suburban feel versus I'm in downtown Bellevue or I'm in downtown Seattle. Right. You can have young families who want to get in the North Shore School District or that southwestern part, which is the Lake Washington School District, 2 top school districts. And you have all these different family activities with STEM schools, just all kinds of different camps, some held at the wineries. And you have trails, miles and miles of trails, parks, right? Tons of parks. I have a client who's looking to buy in Woodinville, and they live in Ballard, but the reason they want to buy in Woodinville is because they drive their daughter, who is into equestrian and horseback riding, because it's a big mecca for people who are into horseback riding. Yeah. And then you've got the first-time home buyers who are into food and wine, actually, and love the proximity to everything, but they work in Kirkland and they work in downtown Bellevue. So there you go. Yeah. It's a wide appeal for a lot of different potential buyers.
Yeah, and I think one thing that people don't think about when they think of Woodinville is, once again, it's a very large geographic area, and you can feel a little bit more urban, but then at the same time, most of it feels a little bit more rural. Yeah. But you get further south, and you go from the wineries, and next thing you know, you're right in Redmond. Like downtown Redmond, it's not that far, right?
Which is much more dense.
It can be 15 minutes maybe? Yeah, like you're going through, which seems like a stretch of, I mean, nothing, depends on who you are.
It's a two-lane
personal,
road,
but
right?
It's not
you're
right.
Interstate or anything like that between the two.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What is let's talk about wine, right? We started this thing with wine. Why is wine so important to this city? And we're not going to give you, here are our top 10 wineries that you go to, because there's a bunch of YouTube videos you can watch if you really want to focus on wine. But let's talk about it from a wine guy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can honestly not tell you why wine started in the area, so I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But, I just feel like, Chateau Ste. Michelle is obviously one of the more well-known wineries that we have here in Washington. And they have this beautiful chateau there that, has hosted concert series over the years. And I know there's probably going to be some changes to what's happening there in the future. But it really kind of put Woodinville on the map as to, hey, here's a cool place where everyone can enjoy wine. And, when I moved here 18 years ago, there was only maybe 20, 25, 30 wineries, something like that. It wasn't that extensive. But it slowly morphed into this powerhouse. And let's be very candid in saying that we don't have a lot of grapes being grown in the area, right?
Okay.
This is not that type
Let's
of
define winery. I think this is important.
Correct.
So that's where Justin's going into,
and so
right?
effectively, you got to realize, like, you go into that area and it's very flat. It's kind of like a valley. And, you're up against, the foothills of the Cascade Mountains, which are further to the east, but there's no prime grape growing areas in Woodinville. It's just a ton of tasting rooms and really some cool wine tasting experiences that wineries are trying to create. So Woodinville has become the area in the Seattle area where a lot of the eastern wineries from Red Mountain or wherever it may be have come here into the Woodinville area and made it their home, trying to obviously drive business. So.
Yeah, I mean that's fascinating to me. When I first went there and went for some wine tasting, and I heard I was going to wineries, and then somebody brought me to a strip mall and said, "Here's one winery. There's a second winery. There's a third winery." I was blown away. So as an amateur person, I didn't really understand that these places created tasting rooms.
Yeah.
And then how it went from like 30 to over 130.
Yeah.
Like it's freaking fascinating. Right? Is Chateau Ste. Michelle actually a winery? Like, are there grapes there? Is Matthew's Winery actually a winery?
No.
Like, are there grapes going there, or did they just have like bigger entertaining areas and places to hang out, so you have spaces where they can throw events?
Yeah, because that's exactly what it is. Maynard is it is an experience, right? And so I believe Chateau Ste. Michelle has some grapes grown on property, but I can promise you that
just for looks.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. But they're sourcing all of their grapes from Eastern Washington, and all the wineries are doing that. But all of the different wineries that are the most well known are creating a truly pretty unique experience. They have usually food options as well. And they're close to other restaurants that can really help elevate the experience. And then you go to the ones that you're talking about, which are in strip, like this. It feels like you're in a strip mall, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty simple, straightforward stuff, but the wines can still be great. So.
Yeah. I think the cool thing about the strip mall is you can literally just hop and walk like 20 yards to the next spot and 20 yards to the next spot. And as long as you can continue to walk, you could actually make it to the next winery. So it depends on how much wine you drink. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty exciting. All right. Thanks, wine guy. Let's go to the food guy. Michael. Food's got to be part of this, right? Like, are there good restaurants in Woodinville?
Yeah, I mean, like I think the old staples of like the Barking Frog, is like what, back in the day, the Barking Frog was like the spot, including in through Bellevue and everything. And that's an awesome experience. But, Willow's Lodge there has an awesome bar as well. I think that for, the wine drive, to be perfectly honest, I think for food people, there are some good spots there, but I don't think it's this mecca of amazing restaurants.
Changing though, Michael.
It's growing. I know you're a wine fan. But I think that it's not the first place that people might think of. It doesn't mean that there's not awesome places. That oftentimes the places that aren't being written about are actually the better restaurants. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's options there. But when we talk about Woodinville wine country, it's not Napa, it's not rolling hills of vineyards. Like you said, a lot of these people don't even own a vineyard. Like Chateau Ste. Michelle, they own vineyards on the eastern side of the state. But there's a lot of just winemakers that are doing awesome things in really, really small production. So I think it's knowing what you're going there for. The downtown Woodinville too, it's a nice, like for a family or a young couple or something, they don't want to live in Seattle, they can live there, and you've got everything kind of on a smaller scale. You get in and out really quick. Yeah. But as far as like, a big time food scene, I don't quite see that there. To be perfectly honest.
So one thing that's actually changing, so I think it's really important to make sure that people understand that downtown Woodinville and the heart of the wine area are two very different places. Right. And so, downtown Woodinville is if you live there, that's kind of where you go for your services and amenities and whatnot. Whereas the wine district is more of a tourist destination, but it still services I'm there several times. But one thing that is really unique is the fact that they're increasing, because the tourist business has increased so much, as they're increasing the hotels in that area as well. There's a new hotel called the Somme Hotel.
Maybe you stay after a lot of tastings.
I have never been there, but I have several friends that have been there. It recently opened up. The Somme Hotel looks like it's one of the premier properties in Western Washington. So I'm really looking forward to checking that out. And then obviously there's the staple, the Willow's Lodge is, obviously very well known in the Woodinville area.
Hey, Willow's Lodge is incredible.
Yeah.
That is the best place for a staycation, and they're now starting to charge, anywhere from $600 to $800 a night or more, depending on the high season. The herb farm is right by, right? The herb farm is the original farm to table. Barking Frog is at the Willow's Lodge, right? But herb farm, which is the original farm to table before everybody called themselves a farm to table restaurant, is still actually open. And I was like blown away at what it used to cost. I can't imagine what it costs to do dinner there right now. Probably $300 a person, maybe. Yeah. If that, I mean, that's not too surprising. I think it's pretty cool though to see the big development in downtown. There's lots of other restaurants that maybe because of the opening of the hotel, that's a sign, right? Where people go to dine and eat. That's where hotels pop up. That's where new restaurants pop up, like Ethan Stoll's, How to Cook a Wolf, which has been in Queen Anne forever, and they have one in Madison Park. They have a How to Cook a Wolf, I believe, in Woodinville now. So all kinds of places like that have opened up. And this is the best sign that your place, your city has arrived on the map.
Oh yeah,
it's Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is opening up. So if you've watched previous episodes, you know that Trader Joe's is your sign to buy real estate or invest. So there you go, guys. It's not open yet. So I tell you, if you bought a house in the next 8 weeks, you might get some massive appreciation. So if you're looking to buy before the Trader Joe's boom, we're here for you. In addition to great restaurants and wineries, breweries are popping up as well. There's just a massive amount of things to do. And so here's a pro tip for you. So if you are not in the Woodinville area and you actually don't go drink non-alcoholic wine and you want to go get drunk, you can get together with your friends, rent an Uber XL or an Uber Black. You can get 6 of you right in there and just go have a great day of wine tasting. Get dropped off, walk around, have a good time, enjoy a bunch of bites, get free tastings, buy some bottles of wine, and then get an Uber back. That's how you safely wine taste at the place that doesn't have rolling hills of wineries. But it has a bunch of walkable strip mall tasting room locations. So,
and that's part of it, right? But through where Chateau Saint Michel is to where DeLille is and Long Shadow, and it's much nicer than strip mall.
Well, you kind of just tend to be focused on, and those are long walks between. If you go to Chateau Saint Michel, unless it's in the summer, where you're just going to enjoy the walk, but then you have this farmland that you got to walk from Chateau Saint Michel to get to the other wineries. So that one's the exception. But there are lots of good options for you, and so I think that's kind of the point. Don't sleep on the wine opportunity there. All right, so we talked about schools, we talked about family life. What else do people do there besides drink and take their kids to school and commute to work?
I think you mentioned it earlier, but the outdoors is a big component of the lifestyle there. And lots of great trails and parks, close proximity, Willow's golf course is, technically, I guess it's in Redmond, but it's right there on the Redmond Woodinville border. You can get into the foothills of the Cascades pretty quickly. Highway 2 is very close by. There's really a lot that people can enjoy with that specific lifestyle. But at the same time, you're close to everything as well. So
I think the horse trails are super unique. I think the Sammamish River Trail, which extends all the way, 8.2 miles, all the way from Bothell over into Redmond. I mean, that is a long way, a long trail that you can, ride your bike, run, walk.
And the Run goes all the way there, all the way into Seattle. If you really want to torture yourself, drink a couple IPAs and then ride back to Seattle.
There we go. We're not encouraging
don't
drinking an e-bike here, folks, but it does happen. So, we tell you the truth on this show.
But the horse properties, I think, is an interesting part because, before all of this wine development, and having that kind of be of focus, and obviously new wine businesses start up because they see the success of the others, so they all kind of help each other out, right? But before that, it was like farming and horse properties. I mean, bridle trails, I think, is a pretty good comparison. Just to kind of what is offered. Obviously, prices are different, but you can still drive through there and you'll see barns and big big horse properties out there.
Yeah, you got mountain biking, a toll pipeline trail, bird watching, photography walks. I mean, all these like equestrian like companies and I guess clubs and trails are quite interesting to me.
Summer camps.
Yeah. Nobody in this podcast is attempting to put themselves out as an equestrian expert, so that's why we're just reading. That's why we're just reading this stuff for you guys. So,
but
awesome.
I think it's important to realize that Woodinville, you can live a very rural lifestyle. You're close in proximity to a lot of things in living in Woodinville. So, regardless of what the lifestyle is that you have directly in your area, you're still close to everything else too.
Yeah. I think that's the theme, right? You get rural combined with downtown, big city amenities, right? And that's what's surprising. And a plethora of wine, which blows me away. Still 130.
Yeah.
130. I still don't know how that happened, but like awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. Let's talk about maybe how has the city changed from the very beginning of time and where do we see it going? I can tell you I have a good friend of mine. His name is Morgan Harris, owns Mercury's Coffee. So 13 years ago, I believe, he owned a little drive-through stand in Woodinville. And it was called something funny. If I can come up with the name. Yeah, it wasn't called Mercury's. It was called something different. I'll find the name in a minute. But since then, like he's blown his coffee shop into 13 different like coffee shops around the area. And part of it, you can say it all started in Woodinville, right? And that's where he kind of got the organic coffee and the growth of it. It used to be called Mercury's Madness. Yeah, and so now one of the busiest coffee shops in all of the Seattle area is in Kirkland. Mercury's Coffee that serves organic coffee, has its own bakery on site, serves alcohol, so you can get that triple combo of giant cinnamon rolls and drinks and beechers and bacon.
Oh wow!
The items. So, but I was talking to him earlier, and he's just talked about how much it's changed, and it's just going to continue to grow and develop. So, I think it's a little bit of a hidden gem, believe it or not, which is weird to say.
Yeah.
But I think if you want that proximity to you're in tech and you can afford like $1 million and up, that's a place that I think would be a great investment.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of saturation there right now.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to have saturation unless it's in the downtown core area or because of the rural feel to the outskirts of it. But, I look at the development of just the downtown Woodinville area in the last 15 years. I mean, it's substantial. You've got athletic fields there right in the middle of downtown, very active kind of corridor of a lot of different shops and restaurants and whatnot. There's the Wooden Creek Apartments that has really created a lot more density in that area. And a lot of it's been kind of built around there.
Yeah, like restaurants, you mean?
Totally,
like restaurants, shopping, again, a walkable urban area.
Right.
Yeah.
And then retail, yeah.
And then, obviously that area has always had a little bit of a vibe to it, but it's been a little bit more sleepy, right? And that's where it's become a little bit more urban. And so the properties that are in, like, say, Hollywood Hills, which is a really nice area of Woodinville in the sense that it has very close proximity to the downtown area, also getting further into the wineries as well. But those properties are really, really highly sought after now because of the fact that they're so close to downtown.
Yeah. And they're large lots and they have zoning restrictions on them. I think this is what's going to keep Woodinville potentially that like unique area where they are allowing density in the downtown core, but because of the rural nature of things and that history of having large lots and houses and not looking out right directly at your neighbors, they're going to keep those zoning restrictions in place, except for the new laws that have come around, like 4 units per lot. But, there's different, that's all being kind of worked and developed still as far as the statewide law goes. So I think that's going to keep Woodinville that interesting, unique area that offers the opportunity to have larger properties, larger lots. You're close to the kind of the rural side of things, rural Redmond even, yet you have that downtown proximity.
Yeah. So the downtown core, though, I mean, that's where you really truly have more of the the types of development that we're thinking about when we think about Seattle or Bellevue or Kirkland or whatever it is. You get outside of there, and the development that they're typically talking about are like custom homes. And so like taking a 1 acre parcel and splitting it into two and building two houses. Like they're not going to be
if the laws allow it, is what you're saying. Or just taking and keeping the large lot, right? And just building your super custom home. So it's not, it has to do with nothing to do with subdividing. But yes, you're totally right, right? Because of the land availability and relative affordability, I put that in air quotes for you guys. Relative affordability. It does draw people who really want to build a custom home.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Wow. Cool. What other developments are going on there? Are you ever going to have light rail? Like, how do people commute anywhere, or is this just going to be a car-driven area?
I think it's a car-driven area for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know, if you can get up to Kingsgate, it's very easy, right? Like, you know, you can connect to everything. Just
and Kingsgate is how far away from Woodinville?
Well, where you were talking, where Chateau Saint Michel is, it's about like a 2 minutes.
Yeah,
and, you know, it's just up the hill. It's just up the hill.
Yeah,
but for downtown, it's a ways.
It's probably 12 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, so like, I don't see it being. I don't know. I think that there's not a bit. The custom home point is huge, right? And yes, there's condos going in and townhomes going in, but I think from a developer's standpoint, like it's not yet the spot that we're not trying to turn it into the next Redmond, right? Or the next Bopper. It's never going to that, right? Like it might get there, but that's why maybe your point about saturation is really interesting, where if you're looking for like, you know, although we haven't seen a ton of appreciation in Woodinville, you know, yet, long term, it might be the next spot because everything gets more dense, everything grows out. Like people say, Woodinville has changed. Well, you could say about any place.
Exactly.
I mean, Olympia's changed, right? I mean, everything has changed, right? It's always going to be that place. So
not Olympia, though.
No.
Just kidding. Yeah, seriously. That's a good point.
I always say Ballard's changed. It's like, well, everybody's saying yeah. But so it's just, you know, it's part of it.
Yeah, I think like a lot of areas, right, you're going to have the residents who've been there a long time and, you know, growth, right? Where we're in a region with high education, right? Major work companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, you name it, right? Drawing affluent people, highly educated people here who are getting well-paid jobs, right? It's going to keep straining affordability, and people are going to continue to want to live closer to the hub of tech areas, right? So that's definitely going to drive growth. You know, there's other options though. There's Kenmore, there's South Bothell. If you're trying to keep it cool, there is, I mean, Issaquah is getting saturated, but then you can go south where, you know, maybe the schools aren't as good. So I think that's the challenge, right? The further you go south to areas like Renton and South Newcastle, where they're not in the Issaquah School District, right? So that's what's going to continue to like push the, I guess, potential hidden gem label of Woodinville, right? Until there's just like less housing options. But there were like 90 properties for sale, you know, when I just looked. So that's a fair amount. And again, you're talking about the city of Woodinville plus unincorporated King County part of Woodinville. I mean, I think those are the things that are going to change it. There's all kinds of little advocacy groups talking about how we manage growth, right? Without putting too much strain, right? Because you've got those narrow roads in downtown Woodinville, but you know that weren't created to handle all that traffic exiting there. So that's one thing I noticed when I go into Woodinville.
Yeah,
you know?
it can be tough to get out of downtown.
Well, at night too, when you're driving on that 2 lane, you're like, why are there more lights around here? But I think one thing to not totally write off people that might have a gripe about how much Woodinville has changed is that, I mean, Maynard, you've been in real estate long enough that you probably have clients in your first year that know, you know, less than 20 years later, they see a massive change where if we talk about, when we talked about Bellevue, you know, the change started happening in the 70s, 80s, right? We're talking about in the 2000s, Woodinville was a totally different place, you know, so I do understand that. But I think that when people talk about it getting more crowded, it's like, if you've ever lived in anything a little bit larger of a city, you're like, it's not crowded here. It's not, you know, I don't think that anybody, that unless you're coming from a very rural place is going to feel hemmed in by the new changes.
I think that's one of the things that Woodinville is going to need to maintain is that charm it has, that kind of small town feel it has. Yes, it's got, even within the Woodinville downtown area, it's still small, it's still quaint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got the wineries, which is yeah, correct, it is. But then you've got the wineries, and that still has that very kind of charming feel to it. And if Woodinville were to get to a point where it was having these massive developments, I really feel like it would lose a lot of that. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the community will let that happen.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any reason for it to now. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah, but
Makes sense. If there was one city similar to Woodinville in the area that people should consider, right, to move to, what would it be?
Oh,
I stumped them.
I honestly think that the only one I can think of is, and I wouldn't even think this is a direct comparison, but potentially Issaquah. Because you can find larger scale properties. There is a bit more of a rural yet urban feel to it, depending on where you are. I still feel like Issaquah is a little bit untapped in some respects, because especially as you go further south of downtown Issaquah. So that's really the only one I can think of. But I really think Woodinville is unique. It's kind of one place. It's very, very.
I don't disagree, but like that's the whole point, is to try to help people think bigger, right? And beyond Woodinville, right? So interesting that you say that. What about you, Michael? Oh.
I would go 50-50 on North Bend or Lake Stevens.
Ooh.
So you're getting further.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah. All right. So tell me about the comparison and why.
Okay, so Lake Stevens has the larger lots. It's got new development within the last 15 years. You've got new, larger scale home builders have kind of planned development communities that we haven't totally seen yet in Woodinville, but that's coming for sure. But single family homes. But you still are miles between grocery stores at some points. And then North Bend, I would say, of kind of the rural feel. Obviously, North Bend has changed a lot, just like everything else.
I like the North Bend.
It's closer.
I think that. That's good.
But you've got the woods, not really farmland per se, but you've got the feel of you go into town, into the downtown. Go gussy it up for your dinner, and then you go home, and there's no streetlights.
I think those are great comparisons, and I shocked these guys with that question because it's a little bit of a trick one. But Issaquah was the one that came to mind, and I think you're going to get similar price points. But if you go to Lake Stevens and North Bend, although North Bend's getting pretty expensive, I think, hey, just say you like Woodinville, but you can't quite afford it, where would you go to? That's where Lake Stevens would be a really good one. Okay, last question. Favorite winery and why?
I like that Janik
deal.
I like it because, one, the whiskey place is right across the street. Typically, I like to drink
winning combo.
But they've got an awesome place right there on site to taste. They make excellent wine. They're a larger producer, but they aren't going to see them everywhere. But they've got a cool outdoor spot right there. It's a really cool looking building. I think it's easy to get in and get out.
Yeah. How about you, Justin?
I've got too many to say.
You got to pick one, buddy.
Pick one. I'll say I like Matthews. I think Matthews is really cool. But runner up, I think I'd probably go with DeLille. DeLille's obviously kind of a Washington staple, but you're a fan. Yeah, well, they have a newer tasting room now too, where it's actually a really cool spot. But I remember the old one was just this tiny little space, and then they had their little, I don't know if you can call it a chateau or a house there, but they used to do a lot of private functions there. I'm not sure if they still do that in their old location, but the new place is awesome too.
All right, cool. All right, good answers. My favorite winery is not a winery. It's Woodinville whiskey. So there we go. But it's in the same city.
It is.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. Hope you enjoyed the episode. As you can see, Woodinville, incredibly diverse. Wine drinking, first-time home buyer who can afford $1 million or a condo downtown. Multi-acre estates are available, so there's so much there. Yet you're very close to Bellevue, Redmond, Kirkland.
And it's a great place to visit too.
It's a great place to
So
visit.
your kid, your wine, and your horse.
There you go. All right. If you found some value, please give us a like. Look forward to talking to you on the next episode.